Okay, hi again. Welcome to another episode of Caregiver Spotlight, where we interview people in the healthcare industry on how they impact lives of other people that they try to make better. Again, for today, we have our guest, are none other than the administrator of Accommodate Medical Staffing and Home Care, our very own Miss Shandrea Wilder. How are you doing, Miss Shandrea?
I am doing great. I am having a wonderful day, and I thank you so much for allowing me to be the host
Well,
today.
it's been a long time coming of you becoming a part of a caregiver spotlight because of course it is our caring compass who tries to put out these spotlights on the caregivers and healthcare workers that of course that doesn't get that spotlight more often than not. So now let's start off with the very first question of the interview. So Miss Andrea, how long have you been working in the healthcare industry, and what are you doing right now at as a part of the healthcare industry?
All right, so I have been working in the healthcare industry for 17 or more years. Don't quote me on the numbers. I started my career as a respiratory therapist, and I did that for 4 years. And I overlapped into becoming a nurse, and then I did nursing bedside for 6 years, maybe six or more, give or take. And then from there, I started Accommodate, and I have been servicing as the business owner of Accommodate for 7 to 8 years. Don't quote me on the timeline, but those numbers are kind of close.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, so you have been in a lengthy part of your life in the healthcare industry. So, what made that first transition from a respiratory therapist to a bedside nurse? So, what made the change?
My ultimate goal in life at that point, from a young child, was to be a nurse. So I just kept pursuing to be what I wanted to be all of my life. And that's how I transitioned over from a therapist to a nurse.
Okay, so I would assume that it was a familiar background that made you want to pursue a career in healthcare. Is that correct?
Yes, I had an incident as a child. And of course, we live and we grow from things that has happened to us in the past, and as we move up in life. And that incident as a child caused me to say that I want to help people just as someone had helped me in the past, to even be here on this earth today. And it was to be a nurse. That's what I remember, and that's what I push forward for.
Okay, so now let's move forward to the next transition that you did from a part of an healthcare industry as an employee who was on the bedside doing the care right with the patient, but now towards someone who owns the business and who administrates people to do care around certain areas of your community. So, what made you take this change, make this big step?
So I started Accommodate Medical Staffing, which is the first baby in business, because number one, there was a healthcare shortage. This healthcare shortage was known, but not as well known as when COVID came about. So I started this business way before COVID hit our lives, and it just was a big shortage. And as a nurse, I was asked to work every single day, and of course, I couldn't fulfill those needs. So in my head, I was trying to figure out how can I work, how can I help my facility and or other facilities have staff when I can't cover all shifts and I can't do everything. So that was one thing. But what led and pushed me over to complete this task and actually get the business up and running, a life matter happened behind this task of starting a business. And I was in a situation where I thought I would not be able to go back to work or to work bedside. And I was trying to figure out how can I still be a part of healthcare, but not be at bedside and still provide services with individuals like-minded like myself as they go into facilities and help patients or clients in need. And that's how Accommodate Medical Staffing was birthed, and that's where we've grown from up till today with helping others.
Okay, so now that you mentioned the first baby, which is accommodate medical staffing, and then of course we have the second baby, which might be the accommodate home care, And then, of course, that the next big step that you did, for my point of view, is the care homes, because that is another thing that would separate the personal staffing business, which you just have to provide personnel to our patients' home. But then again, you wanted to step out even more to provide a home for them. So, what made you take that step?
So one thing always lead to another. So of course we was inside of facilities, taking care of patients and clients. And then as I started managing business and I wasn't so much bedside, and COVID came about, we started staffing other healthcare smaller agencies, such as individuals that had private home cares or they had group homes. We started helping them out with staffing because there was such a shortage. And once I started helping out inside of the community with other businesses doing contracts, I was able to see what was really going on inside of the home. So, of course, we know people are really sick when they're in the hospital, but a lot of healthcare workers that work inside of the hospitals don't get to see the aspect of what's going on inside of the home, where the problem kind of starts. And even after their discharge from facilities or hospitals, there still may be a problem that needs to be taken care of healthcare wise. And because of insurance issues and things like that, they have to discharge. But there needed to be someone that was still overseeing them inside of their home. So as we staffed other companies, I just thought it would be best interest for us to start our own healthcare company with private home care so that I could practice my work ethics and also train and send out those individuals that could be like-minded of how I would take care of someone inside of the home. I wanted to practice and do that, so we started the home care agency. Now, as we did the home care agency, there was a need inside of the home as we were doing bedside care to individuals inside of their home where we couldn't meet their needs in the home. And then they needed further assistance where they needed 24-hour care. And as COVID came about, everybody didn't want to go to a nursing home or a large facility with multiple people. So we pursued further to grow and open up a personal care home so that we could provide those type of standards and still oversee clients with like-minded like myself, my experience, to make those individual lives better than what they were from their past situations.
Okay. So now that you've mentioned having these troubles during COVID and with the staffing personnel sending out to your client's home, what would be, do you think, the biggest challenge that you have faced with accommodate care homes and accommodate medical staffing? Either or, well, that would be great.
Overall, as a healthcare worker, healthcare provider in the community, just not being able to cure and save and solve problems for everyone would be most challenging for me.
Okay. And then how do you try to get over that, or how do you try to solve it as you try to move forward in your career, and of course you try to help more families in moving forward?
I try to be open minded with all situations, and as long as I feel like I'm doing the best that I can from me originating as a respiratory therapist, transitioning as a nurse, and also following policies and procedures as I care for individuals, for myself, for what I'm teaching and instilling into other caregivers, I can say that I'm doing everything that I can, then I can sleep at night from that aspect of it. As long as I know that I'm doing everything that I can, even with bad results or problems that we can't solve, then I still feel like I have accomplished what I need to accomplish as a healthcare worker.
Okay. And then now that you've mentioned that you are trying to do everything in your basket to provide back to in your community so that you could help and give out. You also do teaching classes, correct? You do health certifications, BLS certifications. Is that correct, Miss Shandrea?
Correct, correct, correct.
Okay, so how did that go about?
So, as a healthcare professional, as a business owner, you end up having to do a lot of things on your own, because as you reach out to other resources to have things done, you may can't get those things done in a timely manner. Um, and as employees come in, it's easier to have all the resources that they need during that hiring process within reach, and being able to provide those resources to them immediately instead of waiting or sending them out to get resources done. So that was another thing. I felt like there was a need for my caregivers to have those classes and to be trained the way that I was trained. And of course they have their own aspects of healthcare, but I wanted to make sure they was getting what they need in order to go to facilities or inside of the home. So I added those services on to the agency as well.
Okay. Since you mentioned you would like to train your caregivers as like how they were trained, how you were trained. So what are these qualities that you are trying to impart with them, or you're trying to look as well, to make them into a successful healthcare worker, or a successful member of the healthcare community?
What I'm trying to install in individuals, number one is compassion for others. Do unto others as you want to do with them. Because of COVID, I think a lot of people have gotten into this industry for the money, but this is the industry that the money doesn't meet a priority. There's no amount of money that could put you at a bedside to do some of the things that we have to do in healthcare for other people that aren't even our immediate family, or you don't initially have love for them. So I would say teaching compassion, teaching skills hands on, how to do tasks properly without trying to do it in a hurry just to get a job done, but to do it efficient enough to where there's no harm to your client and or yourself. And also just continuing to offer education, even for myself. Every day is a learning curve. I go to meetings, I go to conferences, I pay for those things out of my pocket, but I am never closed out to not learning. And I want those healthcare workers to know everything that I have in me, I'm going to continue to pour it out to them so that they can be the best that they are or can be once they go out into the community to perform what's in them to be a healthcare worker.
Okay, so now that you have mentioned these wonderful qualities, of course, I think on top of that would be your time management skills, because of course you have three babies, three wonderful kids, is that correct? And then also
Correct.
three wonderful businesses. So how do you manage all the time between being a wonderful mom, a great wife, and also of course a successful businesswoman? How do you try to manage those things?
What I will say is that overall you cannot manage. I can't. Now I'm not going to say what somebody else can't do. I have done jot lists, to do lists, written stuff down by priority, use a hand calendar, use the electronic calendar. I got my phone, everything is going off, and it's a chaotic lifestyle. And I'll tell anybody, if you are wearing three or more hats, there's no way you can manage with a to-do list. It's impossible. Things that are planned are thrown off because it's whatever is coming up to you at that point. Those are the priority things, and I think that priority things are things that you cannot plan for. Some things do make top of the list. I need to get this done, but priority comes about every minute, and that's how I keep up with time management. As we say, I live day to day, I live hour to hour, and minute by minute, because I have stressed myself out in the past with trying to get things done per a list. And when the list is not complete in my mind, I haven't done what I need to do for that day, and it carries over to the next day and it gives me anxiety. But what I have learned, that if I live for what is in my face at the time, I can go home and be a mom and a wife without worrying about what was not done because it wasn't a priority for me. I just do what needs to be done at the time that it comes up. And that's just the way that I live now. And that's what makes me happy. I can't do a list or plan for anything.
Okay. So, well, I guess now make it that in a sense of urgency in the healthcare industry, because again, we in the healthcare field we do it if there's a sense of urgency, you need to help out someone because there's a red code, you would have to do
Right.
it right away. So again,
Right.
that is how we are adjusted to it. So since you mentioned a while ago that money is not of the biggest reward in the healthcare industry, so what would you consider the best reward that you have received as someone who has been in the healthcare industry for 17 plus years?
The best reward is just being able to provide others to help them to have a better lifestyle than what they were currently having before you entered their lives.
Okay. So how have you seen that? Have you seen that as also as an administrator, or have you have seen that more as a bedside care worker?
It's both because it all goes together. What I will tell you, there are separate roles as a worker, being a nurse, a former respiratory therapist, and there are different roles with sitting behind a computer. But it all goes together. Without my past history of bedside working, being able to manage patients, knowing different diagnoses and how to treat, I would not be able to be in an administrative role to give advice to family members in need of what they need to do for their loved ones, when to react, and when to move to the next level to get the care that you need. And just the same thing as with the workers that are going out in the community. If I didn't have one, I couldn't do the other because most of my workers, they look up to me to give them advice. And as a leader, you always have to be the person that has an answer for someone, even if you got to get it from someone else and then bring it back to the person that needs it. But people look up to you to be that person, and it becomes a lot. But as long as you can maintain and keep the strength up and stay positive, then you can provide what's needed in the community. So both of them for me kind of runs together to create me as a whole to be able to do both sides of it, because I still consider myself a bedside worker, because there are most times I'm the first person that the client sees to do assessment in order to tell my caregivers what they need to do to take care of this client. And when clients go to the hospital, I'm back at the bedside to see what are the changes and what do we have to do to prevent them from going back to the hospital. I talk to doctors and nurse practitioners on behalf of my patients' care. So I'm constantly involved in all of it. Kind of, it just goes together for me.
Okay, since you've mentioned being a leader and portraying a message to your team and sending out a positive attitude and positive outlook on how they would treat the patients and how they would treat their clients, could you please give us a message for future healthcare workers and the future members of Accommodate as well on how they would be doing their jobs with their clients?
Um, what I would say for anybody that is working as an employee, anybody that has a business, or you are a employer, make compassion your priority, and everything else will follow afterwards. Again, do as to others as you would want someone to do upon to you, and then you won't have to worry about the monies that will follow, because it's gonna come. You needing employees or getting clients, again, compassion. Once you do what you're supposed to do, everything will follow with you.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Shandrea, for giving us the pleasure of this wonderful interview. And again, that is it for our caregiver spotlight.